Hi, my name is Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have an exciting vlog for you. So me and my good friend Charlie from Brook Reads have decided that we are going to choose each other's TBRs. So we were inspired to do this by Charlotte from Books and Bargains, who did a couple of videos where Victoria from What Victoria Read chose Charlotte's TBR, chose what book Charlotte had to read for a month. I'll link all these channels down below. So Charlie and I thought it would be a fun idea to do the same thing. So in this video, you'll see Charlie choose around 5 prompts for me for books that I need to read. And you'll see me reading those books and give my thoughts on them. If you head over to Charlie's channel, I'll link this down below. There'll be a vlog of me choosing Charlie's books, giving Charlie prompts for the books that she has to read. So some of these prompts may be specific books that we've chosen from each other's physical TBR. Some of the prompts may be more suggestions as to a type of book or something in the title or something that we want the other person to find a book that fits that prompt for. So I'm very excited because I'm about to watch Charlie's first prompt for me.
Hiya, my name's Charlie and I'm on Jen's channel. Hello, lovely Jen's subscribers as well. I'm so excited to be here. Without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into the first prompt. So Jen, as you already know, you are BookTube's DNF queen. Everybody knows you for it. Everybody, you're just amazing at DNFing. So I wanted to utilise that fact and use that for your first prompt. So what I want you to do is work out how many books you DNF'd last month. Go to your shelves, count across that number, and read that book. Quite simple. Hopefully it's a good book, and hopefully you enjoy it. If not, just DNF it and then go from that point again and count that same number across and pick the next book until you finally find one that you actually want to read, hopefully. Or if not, just go on to the next prompt. I don't mind. Anyway, see you in the next one.
Okay, so that was an interesting prompt. Wasn't expecting that one. So I'm just looking at my story graph to see how many books I DNF'd in October. So I DNF'd The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I have read that book before and I do like it, but I just wasn't in the mood for a reread. I DNF'd a horror novel called Winterset Hollow by Jonathan Edward Durham, just because it wasn't my kind of thing. Similar reason, I also DNF'd The Anomaly by Michael Rutger, another horror book that just wasn't for me. And then I DNF'd Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir because, I mean, it really was unlikely to be my kind of thing anyway, and it just wasn't. So that's 4 books that I DNF'd in October, which isn't that many for me really. So just bear with me one moment and I'll see what the 4th book. So I'm going to go from, I don't know what's up there. I think I've got some books that I bought quite recently up there. I'm going to go for the top shelf up here, the 4th book along. Okay, so this is quite funny. So the 4th book along that shelf there is actually The 7 Moons of Marley Almeida by Shihan Karunatilaka. Apologies if I've not pronounced that quite right. So this is funny because I was anticipating this might be a specific book that Charlie chose for me to read from my TBR. So I'll have to send you a little message just to say this is the one that I've picked for this prompt in case she's picked it for me for a subsequent prompt. So that's really weird that this prompt has led to me picking this book. Anyway, the reason I thought Charlie might specifically pick this book for me is because I know Charlie loved this book. It won the Booker in 2022. And the reason I didn't read it at the time was because my library didn't have a copy of it. But I picked this little paperback up for £1 on a charity table a month or 2 ago. So I'm really intrigued to see what this is about. I think it has some aspects of magical realism in it. And yeah, I'm really intrigued because I do think this could be the kind of book that I really, really like. Charlie loved it, so hopefully that bodes well. So yes, this is my first pick. I'll let you know my thoughts once I've read it. Okay, so it's a few days later and I have a confession, which is that I have DNF'd The Seven Moons of Marley Almeida by Shihan Karanatilaka. I just googled how to pronounce the name, so hopefully that's slightly more accurate than it was the first time around. I made it to about page 130 and I didn't dislike the book. I can see that it's a very good book. However, I personally was just really struggling to follow the book, to understand what was going on. I couldn't keep track of the characters apart from maybe like the three main characters. Other people, I didn't really know who they were. And I think to a certain extent it's meant to be somewhat confusing because for the main character has been killed and found like in a lake, and he wakes up, he's dead, but he wakes up in some sort of like not quite purgatory, but like before the entrance to heaven, some sort of like celestial, it's described at the back of as a celestial visa office. So he's dead and he's surrounded by other dead people, but to like gain entry he has to work out, I think, what's happened to him, and he has 7 moons to like figure that out. So for the main character it's meant to be kind of confusing, and it's written in second person, so to you, as if you are the main character. So I think intentionally it's meant to be somewhat confusing as to what's going on, but it got to the point where I just literally didn't understand who was who and what was going on. So it's definitely a fault of me rather than the book, I would say, but sadly that is a DNF. So I had to rewatch Charlie's clip to see what she told me to do. I knew she told me I had to pick another book, but I had to check how she told me to pick the next book. So I think I've understood what she intended correctly, which is that I went back to the same shelf on my bookshelf and counted another 4 books along from where this one was. And I've chosen my next book, which is still for the first prompt. And it has occurred to me, it may have occurred to some of you, that I DNF a lot. So it's entirely possible that we could be stuck here for quite some time. This could be quite a long video if I just keep DNFing the books that are 4 spaces apart on my shelves. I mean, hopefully I won't DNF this one. This is The Little Sparrow Murders by Seishi Yokomizo. This is a Japanese murder mystery novel translated by Brian Karetnik. I have read, I think, 2 or 3 books by this author. I think my favourite one I've read is called The Honjin Murders. So I have had success with this author, although I will say some of the books have been a little bit of a mixed bag. But I am hopeful I am hopeful that this won't be a DNF, because this video could be very long otherwise. But I won't tell you what it's about now, because I'll wait till I've hopefully read the book and then I'll tell you what I think of it. This edition was published by Pushkin Vertigo, and I think it was just published earlier this year when it was translated into English. So it may come as a surprise to no one that the inevitable has happened and I have DNF'd another book. So I did DNF The Little Sparrow Murders. I read just over half the book, and I think my main issue was the fact that there were way too many characters for me to keep track of, which I think is becoming the theme of this vlog. To be fair, there is a character list at the start of the book. However, I just can never be bothered with flipping back and forth continually to work out who everyone is and how they're related to each other. So at the point I finished, just over the halfway mark, we were starting to get some little reveals about secrets that different characters had and how they are like related to each other, different things that are going on between different characters. And I was just like, I don't know who any of you people are, so this means nothing to me. And the murder mystery aspect of it, so it's about these series of murders that happens in this village, and the murder scenes are all set up to mirror the lyrics of a children's rhyme. So there is quite a dark aspect to it. There's not that much of what I would call a proper like murder mystery puzzle aspect to it. There were so many suspects because there are just so many characters, and I like more of like a puzzle type murder mystery, like how did the murder happen in these circumstances, who could have done it. This was just like, it felt like just a bit of a free for all, like anyone could have done it, and you just needed to understand how the people linked to each other to be able to come up with, to understand anything of what was going on. So anyway, so I've DNF'd it. So I did tell Charlie before I started this one, I told her that I DNF'd Marley Almeida and I was going to pick up another one. And she said, okay, but if you DNF that one, and clearly she knows me so well, if you DNF that one, then move on to prompt 2. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move on to prompt 2. So prompt 1 really has just served to prove the point that I am the queen of DNFing, clearly. So I'm going to look at watch Charlie's second prompt now, see what that is, and find out what I'm going to be reading next.
Hiya again. So for my next pick, I have actually chosen a book for you from your shelves. I have chosen Pet by Catherine Chidgey. This is a book that I haven't actually read, but that I have heard so much praise for on BookTube, and it feels like a really you book because it's kind of got dark and sinister sort of undertones, and those are the sorts of books you normally read. So yeah, selfishly, I really want to just know what you think of it. So yeah, that's why I've chosen this book. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, right, let me go get the book. Okay, so Pet by Catherine Chidgey is a book that I bought relatively recently, actually, and like Charlie, I've heard really good things about it. I know it's about I think it's about a schoolgirl who kind of becomes obsessed with her teacher. So I think it sounds like something I would like because I do like stories of obsession. It sounds like it's going to be maybe quite claustrophobic. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with this. So thank you, Charlie. I'd be surprised if this is a DNF, I will say, but you never know. But no, I am really pleased to be reading this. I'm also intrigued by this cover because it's got a pen on the front and it's got like a little ship inside the pen. So I'm really intrigued as to what that is all about. So yes, I'm very much looking forward to reading this one. So I have now finished Pet and I really, really enjoyed this. So I've given this 4.5 stars, which is high praise indeed. I loved it. I thought it was very, very compelling. Once I got sort of to a certain point, I didn't want to put the book down. So we're following Justine, who is 12 years old, and she's at school and their class has just got a new teacher called Mrs. Price. So Mrs. Price likes to choose some of the children who are going to be her pet, and they will like stay behind after class and like tidy stuff up in the classroom. She even gets some of them to like do her shopping for her, different chores and things like that, but the children like really want to be chosen to be Mrs. Price's pet because they sort of idolise her. Mrs. Price, from early on, we can see has a little bit of a nasty streak because she sort of plays the children off against each other, and she will do things like embarrass one of them in front of their classmates. And Justine, our protagonist, is sort of quite vulnerable because about a year ago her mother died, and this pen on the cover, the pen is the last gift that her mother gave to her just before she died. So Justine carries this pen around with her everywhere. The book is told in 2 time frames. So when Justine is a child, that's in 1984, I think. And then we do get some chapters in 2014. And the book opens in 2014 where Justine is going to visit her dad, who's in a care home. And one of the carers who's working there really reminds Justine of Mrs. Price. And then she starts to sort of revisit everything that happened back then. One of the main sort of plot points that happens early on that sort of drives the plot forward is that things start to go missing in the classroom. So various of Justine's classmates lose different things. So it might just be like a little a pen or a bit of stationery or something that they just had in their desk. a little keepsake thing, and things start to go missing, and then it creates this atmosphere of distrust amongst the children, and the way that Mrs. Price deals with that is maybe not the best. I really liked it. I like stories of obsession. I like stories of kind of unlikable characters, and for a lot of the book you feel like you have that sense of unease, like, you know, something's off, you know, something's bad's probably going to happen, or you're not quite sure where it's going to come from. I thought that was done really well. It wasn't a perfect book for me. Like, there was one particular plot device that I could kind of see coming because I've like read that before, but nevertheless it didn't spoil my enjoyment of the book. I thought it was really, really excellent. I would highly recommend. So thank you, Charlie, for that choice. So excitingly, it means I get to listen to my next prompt. So Charlie has told me that I need to listen to prompts 3 and 4 together. So I'm just going to listen to them now.
Hi again. So for the next prompts, I want you to head to the library because we both love libraries. This is something that we both have in common. They're so important to support. So this is why I've included the library prompts in here, as I know you will have done for me. And what I want you to do before you go to the library, or maybe if you're at the library, is to flip a coin, and if you get heads, then you head to the non-fiction, and if you get tails, go into the fiction. And what I want you to do in either of those sections, because obviously the libraries have so many brand new releases that are so eye-catching and pointed out with their lovely new stickers on, and what I want you to do is pick up the first book that catches your eye in your chosen section, because what can be more fun than just picking up a brand new release? So that's for the first part. And for part 2 / for book 2 that I want you to pick up, because it gives you options as well, what I want you to do is to think about what your favourite book was from last month again, and then whatever the author of that book was, use those initials, go to the section and pick up a book based upon those initials. So for example, obviously if my favourite book from last month was by Charlotte Bronte, then I would get a book by an author with the initials CB. So yeah, very straightforward. And also it gives you the opportunity, if you want to read a book by the same author that you loved last month, you can always get another book by that same author. So yeah, hopefully these are good prompts for you and you find some books that you love. So yeah, see you in the next one.
Okay, so I've had to take some notes so I don't forget what my prompts are. So as I'm filming this, it's Thursday evening and I am going to be going to the library on Saturday. I'm actually planning on going to 2 libraries on Saturday, so I have options. So I need to toss a coin. Heads is non-fiction, tails is fiction. You know me, I don't read a lot of non-fictions, but okay, that's fine. So I need to find a new release, the first one that catches my eye. Okay, so that's doable. And then the other one, so my favourite book that I read last month, and the initials of the author. Okay. So I had to check on Storygraph. I don't know why, because I had a 5-star last month and that doesn't happen very often. So my 5-star was The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall. So RH. So I need to look for a book by an author with the initials RH. So Charlie did say I could choose another one by like the same author. I doubt the library has any more books by this author. You never know. But I feel like this is like their most famous work, so I don't know if they will. So yeah, so that's exciting. So what I'll do is, after I've been in the library on Saturday, I'll check back in and I'll let you know what I have picked up. So I have been to the library this morning. Actually, I've been to 2 libraries this morning to pick up books for Charlie's next 2 prompts. So first of all, I flipped a coin. Well, I didn't, my girlfriend did. Flipped a coin and it came up as tails, and we actually even did best of 3 and it still came up as tails. So I was quite relieved, I'm not going to lie, because I'm not really that much of a non-fiction reader. So I had to pick a fiction book from the like new releases section of the library. So I went to my local library this morning first, and at the front they have like a quick pick section, most of which is new stuff or new editions they've just got in. I did take some footage, so we'll insert that if it's, you know, vaguely decent. So they have a few different like quick pick displays at the front of the library when you first go in.
Is it no? It feels like it should be no.
So there I picked up Flint Kill Creek, Stories of Mystery and Suspense by Joyce Carol Oates. So I have read Joyce Carol Oates before. I think I've only read one book. I think it was called something like Jack of Spades. Is that a book? Don't know. I can't see it listed there, but it was called something like that. And yeah, Jack of Spades it was. And I liked it, although I didn't love it. But this sounds good. So this is short stories. And it says it's a collection of mysterious, suspenseful and macabre tales. So it sounds like my kind of thing, like dark short stories. Is something I really, really like. I had a little sort of flick through, I read a couple of pages, and I am interested. This was published this year. I don't know how new it is, but it's from this year, so I think that counts. I haven't heard anything about this book that I'm aware of, and I'm not sort of consciously aware of this book either. I mean, I may have like seen it somewhere around, but it hasn't sort of gone into my brain. So yeah, nice to see a book that I wasn't sort of expecting to see there, and I'm interested to give this a go. I did have a look in my local library for the second prompt. So the second prompt, I needed to find an author with the initials RH, because my favourite book last month was by Radcliffe Hall, The Well of Loneliness. And so I went into the big library in town after going to my local library, which was interesting first of all because I hadn't realised the Christmas markets would be on. And so I got off at the train station and the Christmas markets are right there, literally right in front of the library entrance. And like it took me a bit to work out how to get to the library because there was a lot going on. There was a big fence around the whole thing, and one of the security guys had to like tell me where to go to get to the library. Like I just wanted to go to the library. So yeah, so I inadvertently sort of had a look around the Christmas market on the way. So I did take some footage of Liverpool Library as well, which I'll insert if it's halfway decent. So I had a look for books by Radcliffe Hall to start with. So I had a look online and saw that they did have a few in their reserve fiction collection. So they have like their main fiction collection on the ground floor, and then upstairs they've got a reading room. It's a big circular, sort of quite grand, sort of old-fashioned reading room, and within there they have their reserve fiction collection, which I think is like the stuff. So it's not the popular stuff. It'll be maybe something that's a bit older or stuff that people are maybe less interested in, but they still have it there for people to access if they want to. So they had, I think, 4 books by Radcliffe Hall there. They all looked kind of quite old copies. I decided not to go with any of them, but nice to know that they are there as and when I want to read more by that author. So then I went to sort of the normal fiction collection and I had a look on the horror shelf, and I saw 2 books by Rachel Harrison, who's an author I have read from before. I've read The Return a couple of years ago and really liked it. I gave it 4 stars, and they had 2 books by Rachel Harrison. They had Such Sharp Teeth and they had Bad Dolls. So I had a look at both of them, and the one I went with is Bad Dolls. I really like this cover, and coincidentally this is also short stories. I don't know why I'm being drawn towards short stories at the moment. So this is 4 dark tales. It says friendship, heartbreak, hauntings and the occasional blood sacrifice. I really like this little like creepy like doll on the cover. So again, this looks really good. I think so. Rachel Harrison's horror, well, based on the one I've read and what I've heard about the other of her books, they have certain like a humour to them, and they also sort of comment on social sort of themes as well. So yeah, I am looking forward to giving this a go. I actually have another short story collection which I happened to start this morning. If I'd have known I was going to pick up these 2 from the library as my choices, I wouldn't have bothered starting that short story collection, so I'll have to finish that one first. But then really looking forward to getting to both of these. Okay, time for an update. So I finished reading Bad Dolls by Rachel Harrison, and I really like this book. This I'm going to give, I think, a 4.5 stars. I did think about giving it a 5, I'm not quite sure. It's there, but for a short story collection, to get a 4.5 stars, I think it is really special. It's a very short story collection. There's only 4 stories in here. I thought they were all excellent. My favourite is a story called Goblin, which is about a woman who, along with her friend, decides she wants to lose weight because they're going to be guests at a wedding. And so they download this dieting app called Goblin. And when you download this app, an actual little goblin appears, and everyone's goblin is a little bit different. So you'll get your own goblin who then will like kind of take control of your diet and like take food out your cupboards and like knock food out your hand while you're eating it and things like this. But what I thought about that story, I thought it was, for a short story, I thought it was quite a sort of sensitively done and nuanced exploration of eating disorder, and that balanced with like the horror of this goblin creature, but also somehow it managed to have humour in it as well. I thought it was a really well written, well done story, touching on some really like difficult themes. I thought it was excellent. As I say, all the stories I thought were brilliant. There's one called Bachelorette that I wanted to read the first line to you because I thought this was an excellent first line. So it says, "If I'd been told in advance about the blood sacrifice, I would have made up an excuse not to attend the bachelorette party." I thought that was an excellent first line. Probably the creepiest story was the final one, which is called Bad Dolls, which, as you may guess, is about a creepy doll. I thought that was really well done. I have only read one other Rachel Harrison before, The Return, which I really enjoyed. I want to read everything from the author now, and I wouldn't often recommend to start with a short story collection as your first introduction to an author, but I do think in this case this would probably be a decent introduction to Rachel Harrison if you are interested in checking out some of their work, because all the stories in this collection are consistently good. I think it gives a really good sort of insight into Rachel Harrison's writing. I think this will be a great place to start with their work. So that was really excellent. Now, I have not yet started the short story collection by Joyce Carol Oates, but I want to have a novel on the go at the same time as reading this short story collection. So I messaged Charlie to ask if I could listen to prompt number 5, which will be the final prompt for this video, if it would be okay to listen to that before I finished reading the 4th book. And Charlie said yes, that would be fine. So I'm going to listen to the 5th and final prompt now. I am excited and also a little bit nervous for it for 2 reasons. One, I believe Charlie enlisted the help of the other Charlie, Charles Heathcote, in devising this prompt, and I imagine they've come up with something rather dastardly between the two of them. But also Charlie said that she hopes I don't hate her after this prompt. So, I mean, how bad can it be? I have got pen and paper. I'm anticipating I may have to make some notes as we go through. So let's see what Charlie has got in store for me.
Hiya, Jen. So this is our 5th and final prompt. Can you believe it? We're at the end. I've had the most fun doing this with you. So yeah, for our last prompt, I wanted to do something a little bit different and a little bit like fun, obviously. And I wanted to use something that we initially, as friends, bonded over. And it's not just books. What our final prompt is going to be based on: Traitors, the TV show. We both love Traitors, the TV show. It's something that whenever it's on, we both like message each other so much, and we just had the most fun, obviously. So yeah, this is what I'm going to use for this prompt. So as you know, on your shelves, you've currently got 13 British Library crime classics. And so what I have done is 3 of those British crime classics I have randomly chosen to be traitors. And it's your job to discover one of those 3 traitors. If you can correctly identify one of those 3 traitors, you can pick whichever British crime classic you like to read. If you fail to uncover one of those 3 traitors, you have to read all 3 traitors' books or add them to your TBR. I will be giving you a clue to help you a little bit along your way. So what I have done is I have taken a small zoomed in image from each of the traitors' covers. Some of them I have may have changed the colour on. Some of them I may have flipped. One of them doesn't have any alteration on at all. I will give you 3 guesses, 1 for each traitor, effectively. So yeah, all you've got to do is message me with the names of the books that you think are the traitors when you are ready, and I will tell you if you are correct. Will the traitors go undetected? It's up to you to dissect, to accuse, and discover the truth. So begin.
Okay. So this is a genius prompt. This is so much fun. So yeah, Charlie and I love the TV show The Traitors. I've watched all of the ones I can get a hold of, from the ones from like other countries. I just love it. I'm obsessed with it. I love this prompt. So either way, I'm going to be reading at least one of these British Library crime classics, which is fine. Like, I love them. So if I've understood this right, so Charlie's done pictures, close-up pictures. Some of them she's like changed colours or flipped, of 3 of the covers of the books that I've got here in that collection. So I need to identify the 3 books, message them to Charlie. If I get one right, do I choose any book I want? If I don't get any, I need to read all 3. That bit I know. Okay, I might have to watch this one more time to make sure I understand what I'm doing. And then maybe sometime looking at these book covers. I'll be back shortly. Okay, it's about 15 minutes later and I've been through the front covers of these books here about 3 or 4 times. Some of these clues I think are more difficult than others, so I'll go through my guesses. The one that I think I identified first, so I haven't messaged Charlie yet. I'll tell you what my guesses are, and then I'll message Charlie and we'll see how right or wrong I am. So the first one, the one which is sort of just like white, looks like it could be like a cloud or something like that. I think that's from Bats in the Belfry by E.C.R. Lorac, and I think it's this section here, which is the River Thames. So that's my guess for like the third picture. The next one I may have identified is the first picture, which has got like yellows, blues and greens on it. So I think it's He Who Whispers by John Dixon Carr, and I think it's like this section of trees from this picture. And then the third one I found really difficult, so it's actually the second picture, which is the blue background with the black lines on it, and I think it's from The Cheltenham Square Murder by John Bude. And which bit do I think it is? I think it's like this bit here, which is like, what is that? Is that part of a building or is it rocks? I can't tell, but I think it's this part here. So these are my three traitors. This is who I am accusing of being traitors. So I shall message Charlie now and see if they are indeed traitors or if any of them are faithfuls. So, it's been a little while, but I have 2 books to wrap up to end out this vlog. So where I left you, I think I had just guessed the 3 traitors, and Charlie told me that I did indeed guess all 3 traitors correctly, which meant that I was able to choose one of the British Library crime classics from my shelf to read. And I did choose one of the traitors to read, which was The Cheltenham Square Murder by John Bude. One reason being I have like 4 other John Budes on my shelf and I haven't read any yet. I feel like I probably should read at least one to see if I like them. But also this has a little map sort of, it's like a plan of this like close, so there's like a garden area in the middle and then round these houses, and it says like who lived in which house, and I just really like a little map like that because it indicates that it's going to be significant for the story in some way. So that was why I chose this one, and I enjoyed this one. So this centres around a murder which takes place in, well, Cheltenham Square, which is what is depicted here, and someone is murdered by being shot with an arrow whilst inside one of these houses. So this sort of diagram becomes significant when, as the police are trying to work out who done it, working out who was where and what angle the arrow could have come from, you know, which houses could it have been fired from, etc, etc. So I have given this 3 stars. 3 stars for me means I enjoyed the book. It's a solid read. It's not one of my favourite murder mysteries of all time, but it was enjoyable. It delivered what I want one of these books to deliver. I would definitely read more by John Bude, which is good because, as I say, I have a few more on my shelf. I know my dad likes John Bude. I think he's given all of his books 4 stars, which from my dad is high praise indeed. So yes, enjoyable, would recommend. And then the final book I need to wrap up, because I've not spoken about it yet, is Flint Kill Creek, Stories of Mystery and Suspense by Joyce Carol Oates. So this was one of the ones I picked up for the library prompt, as you'll have seen earlier. So where do we start with this collection? I really, really enjoyed this. There wasn't really a dud story in the collection. They were all really strong, really well written. I've hovered between a 4 and a 4.5 stars, which is, I think, a high rating for a short story collection, certainly from me. I think I'm going to settle on a 4 stars. And I'll tell you why in a moment. So these are called Stories of Mystery and Suspense. I agree with the suspense, maybe slightly less so with the mystery. So it looks like Joyce Carol Oates has written she's written like over 70 books in total. And a number of them are short story collections. And so I'm definitely interested in reading more of them. And some of them are, like this one, are tales of mystery and suspense. Some of them are tales of darkness and dread, tales of terror. And I think these would be more sort of darkness and dread or suspense rather than a mystery, because it doesn't quite... Some of the stories maybe hit the mystery mark, but overall they are stories of... They are disquieting, they are unsettling, they are quite dark. The reason I ended up on a 4 stars rather than a 4.5, I do my star ratings based on my enjoyment of the book. And there was one story called... Let me get the title. It's two people's name. Mick and Min. It was sort of towards the end of the collection. And it was a good story. But it was incredibly disturbing, and it's, if not the most disturbing thing I've ever read, like on a par with the most disturbing thing I've ever read. And I won't go into it sort of too many details, but it's sort of from the perspective of a baby who is taken in by foster parents who are just horrific. And like, it is a good story, but it was really disturbing because it was very descriptive. So in the end, I bumped it down from a 4.5 to a 4 just because that affected my overall enjoyment of the collection. I would recommend the collection, but I would say with that one story, really do approach with caution. I kind of thought about DNFing it, but then I kind of didn't want to DNF the story at the point where I was, because then I would forever be at that point in the story. Does that make sense? I wanted to finish the story to get some sort of resolution or whatever, but incredibly disturbing. But I think, like, Joyce Carol Oates, you can tell that she is like an incredible writer. Obviously, we know she's an incredible writer. She's a very well-renowned writer. But I really like her writing. I really like how she uses brackets, which is an unusual thing to say. I assume she does that in all her writing. And if you've read her, I'm sure you'll know what I mean when I say that. Apologies, by the way, I've got a bit of a cough that you can probably tell in my voice. So yeah, if you like sort of unsettling, sort of that sort of creeping dread type stories, I'd say this is a good one to go for. It was only when I got to the end of the book that I realised it says that some of these stories, did they all? I don't know if all, possibly all actually, if not most, appeared in other places. So they've appeared in a variety of other magazines. It says often in slightly different versions. So, which I think is interesting, because obviously this was only published in November this year, so it is a new release, but it's a collection of stories that have previously been published in one form or another. So I don't know, in terms of sort of judging Joyce Carol Oates' writing, if that means that they've been written across like a long period of time rather than, you know, obviously written for a particular collection. Either way, really enjoyed it. I do want to read more Joyce Carol Oates, in particular short stories, because these kinds of short stories are my kind of short stories. I like dark short stories, but I am slightly cautious because of how disturbing that one was. And some of the others were a bit disturbing, but like at a level I could deal with. That one story was like off the charts disturbing, so that does make me more cautious going into her other collections, but definitely an author I would like to read more from in future. So that wraps up this vlog. Thank you to Charlie for coming up with some brilliant prompts. I'm going to have to now start choosing my own books to read. I don't quite know how I'm going to do that. I feel like I need, you know, to ask someone to come up with some sort of game to tell me what to read next, because I don't know how I'm going to choose. But yeah, thank you so much to Charlie. It's been a lot of fun. If you haven't already, head over to Charlie's channel, and I'll link this down below, to see Charlie's version of this video where I choose some prompts for Charlie. We can see how that plays out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.